Welcome to the Ben Wiersma Show on SVK, where we dive into the topic of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the restaurant industry. I'm your host, Ben Wiersma, and I'm thrilled to be here with you all today. We have two amazing guests on the show. We have Chef Billy Alexander. Chef Billy is here to discuss the culture of storytelling through food, a fascinating subject that I can't wait to dive into. We have our second guest is Cheryl Appleton, is the founder of Canadian Women in Food, and is joining us to bring her perspective on building community and diversity of thought. We're super excited to have our two guests on and can't wait to dive into this topic. We're going to roll the intro. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the Ben Wiersma Show today. Our first guest here is Chef Billy Alexander. I'm so fired up to have Chef Billy on the show today. Just a fantastic individual with an amazing story. So Chef Billy is the Director of Programs for the Culinary Tourism Alliance, focusing on highlighting culinary tourism with a focus on BIPOC perspective on how culture influences food. Chef Billy is also the chair of the Ontario Indigenous Food Tourism Table, tackling Indigenous food sovereignty, security, food sourcing, and tourism. Welcome, Chef Billy.
Hi, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for joining us. So, Chef Billy, I want to dive into the conversation around how do you use food to tell a cultural story?
Yeah, it's an amazing question, Ben. So I am Indigenous. I grew up being raised by my Mohawk mother, and as a result of that, I'm professionally trained as a chef and have been a chef for almost 25 years. But I never knew that anybody was interested in my culture, my food, and I took an opportunity to. With so much different needed insight into who Indigenous people are and how food has influenced us throughout our entirety, I wanted to make food be as interactive as possible and really go behind the scenes and explain as much about my culture through food, whether that be the decision making behind it, the procurement of food in itself, and how we fish, hunt, forage, and the decisions that are made in order to really show that unity and the relationship between land and food, and the relationship between our creator and land being like gifts actually given to us, but also a responsibility as stewards of the land to ensure that no decisions we make right now in regards to any natural resources are out of greed, so that we can ensure that the next 7 generations of our culture all have the same benefit that we did to those gifts. So I choose to teach as much as possible about who we are as Indigenous people through our food. And for me, that's probably my biggest priority in helping bridge the gap in Indigenous awareness and culture, and using food as a way to teach our culture through food.
Yeah, that's a fascinating idea of this relationship between, your individual history and how that translates into the conversation and showcasing your culture through food.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, right? Because I think there's this, I always kind of laugh at this. I've been asked many times about, is Indigenous cuisine a fad? And because it's new to the public, right? And it kind of makes me laugh, because I'm like, yeah, it ends up being like a 14,000 year fad in the lands that we're in right now. and it's been around for its entirety. But what I've realized is that it is new to anybody else who hasn't grown up with it. And as a result of that, it gives us an opportunity to not just share my version of it, but for me to be able to teach the different versions and the inspirations that really actually come from the past generations and that have walked this earth before us. So it's really a highlight to how we've always been showcased in today's world.
Yeah, that's a great piece. So how do you see, the BIPOC perspective influencing food today?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think Canada has been much accredited with being the most multicultural country in the world. And as a result of that, you can see that broken up in many of the different provinces, towns, communities, whether it's regional, national, and this is a great reflection. But mainstream culinary, what ends up happening is we're dealing with an accessibility problem. So a lot of the BIPOC perspectives and restaurants that are being opened up are incredibly unique. And you don't, as a result of that, you don't see those in a chain style that we're used to of restaurants where you get really familiar with a restaurant brand. So what ends up happening with it is the BIPOC perspective is incredibly unique and important to actually shaping and celebrating what Canada truly is in its main core foundation of being multicultural. And what it really creates is a unique experience, especially from a tourism perspective, for foodies or for individuals, couples, families to really partake in an opportunity to not only eat great, unique food, but learn a lot about the cultures that are behind them, because the plates that you get to eat are so much more than the way we view the ingredients that are being used. And there's a story behind those ingredients and methods of cooking that are related to the culture. So long story short, the BIPOC, if we want to truly celebrate Canada and all of the multiculturalism that is associated with it, being able to go into those and experience those opportunities of these little niche areas that actually make up Canada but aren't duplicated in any other province is a great way for us to show our support locally to the BIPOC cultures and amazing experiences that they're sharing with each of us.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating subject that's really in the forefront of society today. Is how do we gain an understanding of different perspectives than our own, but through this conversation of food. So I just find it extremely fascinating. So, I have a question around kind of what advice would you give, people within the industry who are kind of looking at different ways of telling their story of what they do.
Yeah, what I would say is when, and I draw from my own experiences, my own lived experiences here, but the difference maker for me in helping to showcase Indigenous tourism was that I looked at what I was trying to share and what my outcome was. My outcome that I was looking for was accessibility. I wanted more Indigenous restaurants all around Canada so that we could realize and so that everybody could share in what that beautiful cuisine really is. My advice to people is maybe don't try to. I never tried to fit into what the restaurant industry was. I tried to really always stay true to the reasons that I got into it. If you're coming from a BIPOC perspective and looking to really share who you are, the things that motivate you, and share your culture, my advice would be to not deviate from that. It almost doesn't matter what the restaurant down the street is doing if they're not doing what you're doing, and being true to yourself and what it is you're trying to share is your foundation. So this leads to one other great piece of advice that I would say is, when I look at culinary tourism, and you may not think that you're in culinary tourism, but tourism and culinary tourism is defined as any activity in which people choose to spend eating or drinking as a way of entertainment or having fun. It used to be that we used to think about food as on what we did on the way to something. And in today's world now, food is the experience. So make your food and make your culinary food and beverage experience exactly that. Make it an experience. I've been successful in my career because people have come into the restaurants looking for food and often left thinking food was the bonus, because of what your ability to teach them and have them and surprise them. That's what actually keeps them coming back. And that's where you build that trust that is so much more than just how your food tastes. And when I look at this experience, and is trust your reason for why you want to share your perspective. And if the other restaurants that are in your competitive stream aren't doing it, that's okay, because the reasons you're doing it is likely very different than the reasons they are, which is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah, it is an amazing opportunity, and it's definitely something that can set your business apart, set your business apart from the other ones that are out there, around sharing, your unique story and your unique identity through what you do.
Yeah, I would say this, Ben, with it, and I would challenge every person in the restaurant industry to think about this. If you think about the level of sacrifice that it takes for you to be successful in this industry, and the blood, sweat, and tears that you literally put into this business to be successful, it only makes sense that if you have an opportunity to showcase a little bit of who you are or who your culture is and put that out front, it makes sense, because you've already put every other aspect of you into it. Why would you not put it out front as well?
Yeah, that's a very, very profound point of it's just a fascinating story. Well, Chef Billy, it's been fantastic. It's so short, but it's been fantastic to have you on the show. Your advice and perspective is fascinating to understand this cultural story through food. I just think it's a fascinating subject, and we'll have to have you back on the show at some point in the future to dive into this topic as well.
Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate that. And I know, we'll continue to talk more in the future. And this is an ongoing system where everything is interconnected. But thank you very much for having me. It's been my absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's great to have you on the show. We appreciate it.
Likewise.
All right. So big thanks to Chef Billy for his insight on the BIPOC perspective within the restaurant industry, and really how to tell your story through the culture that you possess. On to a quick break, and then we'll have Cheryl Appleton back from Canadian Women in Food.
Hey, I'm Ryan Smokin, Chief Entertainment Officer at Smokes Poutinery, and I'm bringing you the newest international entertainment show through my partners at Sysco Virtual Kitchen. Can you believe they're actually giving me my own show? You've got to be there! September 30th!
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome.
What a commercial to follow.
I know, right? What a commercial to follow, yeah. So welcome back, everyone, to the Ben Wiersma Show. I'm joined with Cheryl Appleton. Cheryl is a thought-provoking leader in the food service industry and founder of Canadian Women in Food. I'm excited to have her on the show today to talk to us really about diversity of thought and community through food. But to start off, Cheryl, I thank you for being on the show, and I really want to learn a little bit more about Canadian Women in Food.
Outstanding. Well, thank you very much for allowing for me to join us, Ben. I'm really excited to be here, and Billy was a great interview. So, this is just a terrific format. So, congratulations on the launch of your show. A little bit about Canadian Women in Food, just to dive into it. We've been around since 2014, and we were originally founded as a national association to help amplify the voices of women in food. And in that time, we've really become the space for women in food to connect and where they want to be in order to grow themselves both personally and professionally. So over the course of time, we've evolved as an organization. We keep growing, and we're here to stay.
Yeah. It's fascinating. Such a great conversation to be had around women within food entrepreneur. So, we find ourselves in this real environment of rapid change. How do you see community playing a role in individual and business success?
Well, there's no question the pandemic has really narrowed the channels of traditional business growth. And so for many food entrepreneurs that are out there, they've had to figure out how to be able to pivot online, or how to be able to pivot to in person and sometimes back again, with the changing regulations, with lockdown, in lockdown, out of lockdown. And really what it's created is sort of this separation between operators that were really creative, and those that sort of sat back and took things in. What we've found is that a lot of operators, when first challenged with the pandemic, they pivoted online. They adjusted their takeout menus. They became bottle shops. They became bodegas. And now they've evolved to something that's entirely new, where their restaurants become really a community hub for local neighborhood and for small businesses. And that's very important, because we don't anticipate that those formats are really going to change on a going forward basis. They're actually going to grow and become more dynamic as a result of the pandemic than before, simply because operators were pushed into a position where they really needed to creatively apply new ideas in order to connect with their customers in a meaningful way.
Yeah, you're right. It's been that challenging time, but it's through that community that you can become successful, right? It's through that support.
And it's part of the reason why we've developed some new programs at Canadian Women in Food. One of them that we have is called Monday Morning Manager. And for our members, it's a weekly virtual drop-in every Monday at 9 a.m. And trust me, the women who are part of our organization, who are based in Western Canada, they get up very early to join us because we're located primarily in Toronto. We work off of Eastern Standard Time. But it's a place where we can pick up new skills as entrepreneurs. I mean, let's face it, TikTok, anyone? Do you know how to do that? We do now. And so we pick up new skills, and that helps us to be more resilient and navigate the challenges that we face every day with a lot more perspective, because we're doing it together. And you're not just out there floating on your own.
Yeah, it's that support that's needed during this time. So, Cheryl, I want to get your thoughts on really female and female identified voices within the future of food. So, looking more towards the future of food from that female and female identified voice.
So I want to share with you a couple of facts. They're pretty key. So 85% of food decisions that are made around what gets consumed in the home are still made by women, right? So that's an important fact. But what's even more dramatic is by the year 2030, and that's not that far away, okay? Women will own 65% of the world's wealth. Okay, let that sink in, right? So when people say that the future is female, it's true, and we're here to stir women up. Part of the reason why a lot of women do get into food and start up their own food businesses is because they see gaps within the marketplace, because they have the responsibility for taking care of their families. They see opportunities where the market is really not taking care of children or people around them in a nutritionally sound way. And that's part of the reason why a lot of women get into the food business. So when you now couple factors around the decision making that takes place in the home with the economic power to direct those dollars, being a woman in food is a really powerful thing. So the next time around somebody says, hey, the meek shall inherit the earth. It's coming. It's it's very definitely coming.
Yeah. So I know, so I've heard of this Gifts of Goodness that was started, and I'd like to learn more about how did that start and kind of where is it at today?
Well, we're an organic organization, so we're volunteer led. I'm classically the originator of the phrase the no budget budget. So Gifts of Goodness was an initiative that was driven by one of our members, Andrea Watson, who is the CEO and president of Nature Knows. And most recently, president and CEO of Fresh Wagon Fresh Grocery Delivery. She's also our national ambassador for Canadian Women in Food. So she's out there connecting and driving and really creating new ideas. So Andrea took of her own initiative in the fall of 19 to work with us to really rally around the members and say, hey guys, let's create a couple of gift boxes, a big one with wine, a little one without wine, and let's sell them over the internet. And so we leaned very heavily on Andrea and her resources, and it was a huge success. We came away from that experience knowing that we needed to put some branding around it. We really needed to own it as an organization. So it was in May of this year. So today, Gifts of Goodness is a socially curated gift box program. Every box tells a story. It supports a woman in food, and we have a 10% give back to charity. So it's really important in terms of how it aligns with our values as entrepreneurs, and what we're able to do with each other in terms of that collaboration to work on something that's bigger than ourselves. And that experience is really transformational. I can personally say that with the original 6 boxes that we launched in May of this year, one of those boxes was really quite unique. We created actually, not we, one of our members, Kelly Maxfield, who is our queer chocolatier of Hot Shot Chocolate. She created a pride parade in a box. And it was an initiative that was really supported by our allies and LGBTQ2 members. And it created something really exciting and dynamic that the market hadn't ever seen before, where you could order online everything you needed to have as a mini pride parade in a box anywhere in Canada. We ship anywhere. So we're thrilled that we can continue a program like Gifts of Goodness year round. Create that excitement and that energy amongst the members. And it feels good too, because we have that, we're making a difference within the communities in which we live.
Yeah, and that's that diversity of thought that really brings that together, right? It's all of those perspectives. Looking at something like this gift box, how can we curate and contribute that? It really builds that sense of community, but also leveraging that diversity that exists within your organization.
It's so true. If you had asked me a year ago whether or not we would be in the gift box business, and gift boxes are great for small business, and we've sold over 500 of them in just the last couple of months alone, just for some numbers there. But if you had asked me a year ago that is this something that we would be doing as an organization, I mean, we never even would have imagined it. So we're really good at helping to foster our members and encourage them to take the lead on projects and initiatives, and then help to support them so that their ideas and their vision can come alive. And that's really what it is that we're here to do, is to make meaningful connections for our members, and to help them navigate the challenges and seize opportunities in a way that will make a difference for them in their life.
Yeah, this is fascinating community that you're really building. I'm so excited to have you on the show to be able to talk about this. And so, how would anyone viewing be able to learn more about the amazing work that you're doing?
Well, come and follow us. Please do visit our website. It's really dynamic. That's where you'll find the shop, and you can take a look at the Gifts of Goodness that we've created. They are available for sale. And our website is www.canadianwomeninfood.ca, of course. And you can see a lot of what we're all about. Sign up for our newsletter, The Dish, where we dish on women in food, technology, media, and more. We've got lots of interesting things coming up that we're planning, and so you'll want to stay tuned and keep an eye on where it is that we're headed, because listen, we're not your mother's food association, okay? Times have changed, and we're definitely on top of the pulse of what's happening in the marketplace for women in food.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate you being on the show, and I'm going to head over there and purchase my gift of goodness to support a Canadian female-owned business. So it's been fantastic to have you on the show today. And I just want to say, thank you to both of our guests that we've had on here. These are two very important topics, and it's been fascinating to learn more about all of the great work that both of our guests have done. And in terms of more information, SVK is a network where you can learn more about all things within the restaurant industry and within food service. So take a look at all of our socials. We're on YouTube and all of the major social platforms. So my name is Ben Wiersma. I've been honored to be your host today. And remember, share food and care for one another.
You wanna say something, don't try. Then you better get to work now. You wanna do something, don't try. Don't try. Hold tight. I'm gonna do something to try. You will never ever hurt. I'm gonna put something on fire.